Hey there, folks. How we doing? My name is Gary Karp. I'm here with the creator of the Group of One, Katie West. And again, we are about to talk about anything and everything on the universe in our 16-part discussion, Chats About Life, the Universe, and Everything. Title, of course, is an homage to Douglas Adams, who's one of my favorite authors. And today's show is going to be on practical ways of showing self-love and unconditional love. So with that, I'm going to throw it over to Katie so she can introduce herself to you, and so she can talk about, well, who knows? It's the beginning of the show. Katie always says something interesting. So hello again, Katie. Good afternoon and good evening for you. How you been?
Hi, Gary. Yes, hi, everybody. Yeah, I've been having a good week. It's all been good. Today's show is all about practical ways on loving ourselves and each other unconditionally. So it'd be interesting to talk about why just by loving ourselves unconditionally, what effect that can have on our outer world, and with our communications with each other, and with in every aspect of our lives and in our relationships. So I think it has a massive impact, and it can have it does, and it can have a massive impact on our lives. So yeah, that's what I quite like to sort of discuss, really, and a bit later on, practical ways on how we can, little tips on how either you love yourself unconditionally, how I love myself unconditionally, and little things that we do, like tools that we use.
Okay.
Perhaps you can share with others. Yeah, and also it'd be quite nice if anybody's watching this and they want to leave any sort of little tips or advice that they use. And if they want to, write it in the comments section, anywhere, like on the Google Plus site, they can, and then we'll sort of read them out and let other people know. Do you know what I mean? Just, it's all about sharing, isn't it, and giving. So.
Absolutely. So, folks, if you're watching out there and you're watching live, either in the Google Hangout with us, or you're one of the many viewers that watch us on the YouTube video live over at youtube.com, please join in the conversation. Any tips that you have that you use to show yourself love and gentleness and compassion, just write them in the comments, and hopefully we'll see them here in the group chat, and we'll share them with everyone else. Also, you could put in the comments what you get when you love yourself unconditionally. How does that benefit your life? And I guess we could spend the first half of the show talking about that, and then the second half talking about some practical examples on how people can do this. So I'm just going to dive into the fray right here, and I know for about a year and a half now, I have been doing an exercise where every day I write down 100 things that I am grateful for in my life. Every day, without stopping, I guess is the right word I can say. Every day, whether I'm healthy, whether I'm sick, whether I'm tired, whether I'm bored, I start the day by writing those 100 things that I'm grateful for every day. I get up, I write a few, I then go take a shower, get dressed, have my cup of coffee, I write some more with my cup of coffee, and I just sketch it out throughout the day. And the one thing that I've noticed when I start doing this, because when I started it, I was sort of like, yeah, okay, this is going to be garbage, it's not going to be anything. But really what turned out to be was that as I start writing these things down each and every day, my focus started shifting to things that I'm being more grateful for. And I'm seeing more things that I have rather than the things that I want, and I'm becoming more satisfied in my life. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't want to achieve more, that I don't want more popularity, that I don't want more money, that I don't want more success for my business. But I'm happy and satisfied with where I am right now, and that has made a great deal of difference for me talking about unconditional love, because it's taken off all the stress, all the pressure, all the judgment has removed itself from me. So while I'm still moving forward towards my goals, this little trick that I do every day, and we'll talk more about that in the second half of the show, has really made me go with the flow and live in the moment and be able to handle the stresses in every day without blowing up. And for me, that's what self-love or unconditional self-love has really done for me. Katie, do you find that's the same for you?
Yes, I totally get what you're saying there. I mean, as you were talking then, it sort of brought me back to sort of years ago, when I don't know, it's like, it's like they say to sort of parents when they have children, you're not given a rule book. And, it's the same with when I see my life, looking back on my life, there is no rule book for being. I basically had to make it up as I went along. And, for the first part, I suppose I thought a lot of other people knew what was best for me. Because of everything that I was listening to, and obviously that's other people's just projections of their own inner thoughts and feelings, so forth. But at that time I didn't realise that. But listening to them and taking it on board for me, thinking, sort of taking their advice, so to speak, I felt in taking their advice, I wasn't good enough to come to my own conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of placed these limitations and these conditions on myself. And basically because I felt I wasn't good enough. Like, who was I? Who was I? I got no degrees, I've got no qualifications. Who am I? I've got no right to tell myself what to do, so to speak. That's how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
Because of all this stuff that I'd sort of basically suppressed myself, because I took on what other people believed they thought was right for me. So, but again, I'm not blaming anyone out there. If anything, I'm totally personally responsible for believing it. I didn't have to believe it, but I did, because I didn't believe that I was worthy to know that I was. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I place these conditions on myself. I can look back now and see that. Yeah.
So how has your life improved since you've taken on a daily strategy of unconditional self-love?
Right, okay. Where this come in now, I suppose because so in 2006 I started doing a lot of research into the science behind nature and the sort of quantum mechanics of stuff and relativity and all that sort of thing. And what I sort of worked out was through the process of evolution, everything's constantly changing, but everything happens at the right time for it to happen, regardless of what it is. This is in my understanding and what I see from life. So with regards to when something sort of happens, or a condition or a limitation, I feel something rising to the surface, I can allow it to just happen, and I just go through the experience. I don't try and stop it, I don't try and suppress it. I allow it to rise to the surface because I love myself without condition. I'm not placing a condition on myself and trying to limit myself.
Now, was this something that in the past that you tried to control and it gave you agita?
And it gave me what?
I'm sorry, agita, Italian word meaning stress.
Yes, yeah, I tried to control it, and that's what stress, that's why I got physical sort of stress reactions from that. Trying to control, but trying to suppress myself, I suppose.
Yeah. So if there's, to the people that are listening that may be sitting here and going, well, that's great, writing gratitudes, daily gratitudes, and just allowing yourself to be in the moment and knowing that everything comes in the same time, in the right time for you, and not trying to push it and not trying to suppress it and just allowing it to be in the moment, as you have said. This could be people listening to this and going, well, that's just a load of malarkey. How the hell am I going to control that? How did you, and I know we're going to talk about specifics in the second half, but just how, for me, the transformation took place because I physically started writing things down, and that changed my focus, which changed what I saw, which changed the way I felt and the way I treated myself.
Yeah.
How did you change that thought process to say, okay, I'm going to love myself, I'm just going to let things happen at the time they happen in the way they happen?
Yeah. Well, I began to understand what true forgiveness was. And I started practicing true forgiveness on myself, like forgiving myself forgiving myself for beating myself up for too long, forgiving myself for not feeling that I was any good. It's just forgiving myself for all those things. I allowed all those things to come to the surface, and I sort of forgave myself, because it's not about forgiving anybody out there. You know, that's how I see it now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just forgiving that part of myself that just didn't feel that it was good enough. That's what I'm saying. And that took a long time to go through that process. And sort of letting go of that, and letting it go with love, and sort of like healing. When I first set up the Group of One, as you know, Gary, it was more of a platform, and people to have profiles and music and forums and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I remember.
And we had probably just under 400 members worldwide, and you know, it was quite interactive right at the beginning. But I use that mainly as a hub, and that's where some people, I think it's very important I use that, sorry, I'm starting again because I'm getting a bit confused. I use the Group of One as a place for me, a safe space for me to offload all my thoughts and feelings. And there's quite a few letters on there that came across as really angry, that I knew I could write on there, because hardly anybody went on there really in comparison. Not many people, I'm sure, like read half the stuff I wrote back then. But it was all like my angers and my frustrations. And as soon as literally, I can remember now, tapping on the keyboard and so frantic, I was like really going where all this anger would come out, and I was writing it down instead of taking it out on anyone else, because I knew it had nothing to do with anyone else. It was just me having to like offload and release. So what I would say to people is find some way you can offload and release how you truly feel inside. Just get really angry and allow it to come out, because with this concept of oneness, it's not just about love, light and fluffy. It's not just about the light. It's about embracing our dark and allowing our dark to heal itself as well. Okay, so, you know, and so allowing that anger to come out in whatever way it sees fit, but obviously not on another person, because, you know, everybody, we're all beautiful beings doing what we can the best of knowledge. So it's never anybody else's fault. No matter how it's looked at, there's nobody else is to blame for why we feel the way we feel. We are to blame. If you want to say something, we are responsible for how we feel about anything that's going on outside and external. So that's all I really want to get that across to a lot of people, because I see a lot of blame going on. So all I'd say is find an outlet. If you like writing, if you're good at writing, then just write it down, even if you like screw it up and throw it away afterwards, because every single time I finished offloading in that way, I just felt so much better. I could then go out for a walk and I just feel a lot easier, a lot like a big relief, just getting it out.
I think that you said something that's very powerful that people who are watching may not understand, especially if they're at the beginning of their journeys or they're just stumbling through the darkness looking for some sort of light. And that is being aware and being an unconditional being of love does not mean that you are all light and fluffy all the time. It doesn't mean that you're a fluffy bunny, as some people call those in the metaphysical universe, in the metaphysical realm. Fluffy bunnies are considered people who believe in only white magic and unicorns and rainbows and all that kind of stuff, and they don't want to go near anything else. Okay? Doreen Virtue, as much as I respect her with what she's done and the empire she has built, is another one of these people who only look at the light, only look at the good side. And you made a very valid point that in each of us, we have the capability of light and the capability of darkness. Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung referred to it as that shadow self. So if there is anger in you, then yes, you have to get it out and try to find a healthy way of getting it out. By no means, don't take it out on somebody else. Don't walk down the street and just slug somebody. We don't want that. We're not advocating that. But you have to get it out, and that's part of you. Do not deny that part. That's part of the unconditional love, that even the dark part of you that you don't like to show everybody is in fact part of you. But it has to come out. So if you write, if you sing, if you paint, if you draw, you may want to take some mixed martial arts classes or some boxing classes or some judo or maybe some dance classes or maybe therapy. Whatever works for you is something that you should really do, because once you find that outlet and you accept that you are both that light and that darkness, that shadow self, as was said by Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell, then you can really start to enjoy your life. Because I think until then, if you're only trying to run in the light and you only believe there's one right way of coming to your spiritual awakening, and you're denying everything else, you're going to be beating yourself up, because you're going to be denying your part of yourself, and you're going to be saying, this part of me is wrong, and you're always going to be in judgment. So I think you're absolutely right with that. The one thing that I would say to everyone who is within the sound of my voice is, don't be ashamed of your dark side. Learn to embrace it. Understand it's there. And over the last couple of episodes, we have talked a lot about Neil Donald Walsh and the Conversation with God books. And the one thing he said in the book, when he was talking about the divine dichotomy, and I think we could say that the light and the shadow in all of us is part of this divine dichotomy, and that is that the opposites have to exist, that you can't know hot until there's cold, you can't know love until there's hate or apathy, depending on your definition of love. The same thing is, you can't know the light part of yourself until you accept the dark part of yourself. And the good thing about it is, what Neil said, is that you don't have to bring that part of you close to you. You just have to understand that it exists somewhere in the world and somewhere in the universe, that you don't have to bring it to fruition and bring it out. So you could accept yourself without indulging in those feelings. If you decide to indulge, hey, knock your socks off. It's your world, and you decide how you want to experiment and experience it. But the sooner you can get to knowing your dark side, the sooner that you can get to accepting that shadow side and the wholeness of your being, then you'll start living non-judgmentally. And the strange thing is, when you start being non-judgmental with yourself, you start accepting other people in a non-judgmental way.
Yeah.
So, do you agree with that, Katie?
Yeah, I do, most definitely, definitely. You know, since since I've totally accepted me and all my weird and wonderful ways of being, I accept everybody else's weird and wonderful ways of being. And I think it's absolutely beautiful.
And I mean, for me, I know I had a situation yesterday, a personal situation, where a bunch of my friends got hurt and disappointed because something that they were promised for many months and they were looking forward to was very violently ripped from their grasp. And my first instinct to protect my friends was for revenge, was to just yell and scream. But because I have this self-love, this acceptance of both the good and the bad of myself, I was able to take a step back and just for a moment say, no, wait a second. These people, you may not agree with what they're doing, but they're living their own life in the way they can, and you have to accept that. Just as you accept your shortcomings, or meaning I accept my shortcomings, you have to accept theirs. And as soon as that thought hit my head, all the stress, all the anger just bled out of me. So this is a very simple thought process that's very, very powerful. And if anyone is listening and they're curious, I would pick up any book by Joseph Campbell. Myths and Legends is wonderful. I would pick up and study some Joseph Campbell. And again, go back to the Neil Donald Walsh books, which are wonderful in themselves, if only you read the first 3. Now, Katie, when somebody, I know for me, when I started making this transition of accepting myself, I fell more than I rode down the block. And it was very difficult for me to really, at the beginning, accept my shortcomings because I'm a type A personality. I'm very driven. I'm very passionate. And when I saw challenges in myself, I wanted to correct them because I wanted to be perfect. And I wanted to be perfect, but then I realized I was judging myself by someone else's story, by someone else's expectation of who I should be. So what advice would you give to someone who is going through this process of self-discovery, of becoming a non-judgmental being, but they're still fighting that type A personality that I have got to be perfect?
Okay, well, when I look back, one of the things that I really had to consciously keep my mind on is not to have any expectations whatsoever. Expect nothing. So when I made a decision, it's not expecting the outcome. It was almost like, put it out there, this is what I want. If it comes back to me, great. If it doesn't, great. It's meant to be either way. Not to, that for me, when I go sort of right back to the beginning, that was one of the ones I really had to instill that in myself.
Okay.
Is have no expectations. Sorry?
I'm going to interrupt you there because this is maybe a difference in beliefs between you and me. So I want to get a little bit of clarification because you said not to have any expectations. If I wanted something, I had no expectations. If it happened, great. If it didn't happen, great. Okay? And I agree with you. Living in the moment like that is one of the keys to happiness. Yet what I do professionally is I teach mindfulness and the law of attraction. And the law of attraction states that you have to keep focused on what you want while you're moving towards it and actually manifest the belief in yourself that you already have it.
Yes, you expect to have it. Yes.
Right, that definition, and so it seems a little, again, we're talking about the divine dichotomy and yin-yang, but where you would say that, I would say live each in the moment, but don't give up your dreams. Don't say, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't, because then nothing will ever materialize. Nothing will ever manifest. Does that make sense?
I get what you mean. I suppose you asked me somebody at the beginning of their journey, like at the beginning. I suppose I went back to my beginning.
Okay.
And because now I expect whatever I focus my attention on now, because I trust 100% in myself and what I can create, I'm fully aware that whatever I focus on, whatever I think about, I bring about. Now, I'm fully aware of that now. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, therefore, what I focus on, I expect to happen. Because it can't not happen because I'm 100% focused on it happening. Yes? So
Yeah,
I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But right at the beginning of my journey, when I suppose I was coming from coming out of the conditioned way of being into the unconditioned way of being, okay, that's what I did. I suppose it's the divine dichotomy again, isn't it? It's like expect nothing, but expect everything at the same time.
Right, and I think that we can get hung up on the words and the semantics of things because people say, well, don't expect anything, but then focus on what you want and act as if you're going to get it. And you're like,
yeah.
Huh? I think it would be much simpler to say, instead of don't expect anything, to live in the moment, to be in the moment, and to not relive the past and say, well, I made the mistakes here, this is what brought me here, or my life was so much better back then, why is it crap now? Okay? One, don't live in the future where it says, okay, I want to start my own business and turn it into a successful $1 million a year billing business, yet I've got 2 nickels to scratch together and no clients. How the hell am I going to do it? Or how am I going to raise the money to send my kids to college? Because that's, again, going to give you an open-ended question that is just going to set you like on a hamster wheel, and you're just going to be going over and over and over. You're not going to be in the moment where things of infinite possibility and infinite potentiality live.
Okay, Gary, yes, sorry. Right, something's just come in and putting the... Okay. So, yeah, on one hand, I've set the intention on something, and I suppose what I'm trying to say is not it. Don't expect it to happen when you necessarily want it to happen. It will happen, but don't. It's like try not to, not don't do whatever you like. But I'm just suggesting is don't expect it to happen when you want it to happen.
And I agree with this.
I suppose that's what I'm trying to say, is don't have any expectations of when it will happen. But it will happen. If you set the intention out there for it to happen, it will.
Right, and just to add on to that, because I agree with everything you're saying, I have set an intention for myself in my personal life and my professional life, and they're intertwined, and one relies on the other. And this is something that I know will happen because I have set the intention so strongly. I want it with every ounce of my body, my soul, and my heart. So I know it's going to happen.
Likewise.
And I keep moving forward towards that. Yet there are occasions where I get judgmental about myself because it's not happening fast enough, because I don't see the progress being happening. And then I fall back into the judgmental way of feeling. And I have to sit there and remind myself to take a deep breath and to say, look, your time, if it was my choice, I'd have it tomorrow. But that's not possible. Just keep moving forward, doing what you're doing, believing in yourself, believing in your intention, and it will happen. It will manifest. There is no way it cannot if I am 100% behind that intention and my ability to manifest it. And that's also talking about unconditional love and being gentle with yourself. Because the one thing I love to say all the time to my clients, and really to anybody I talk to that I find beating themselves up because of something they didn't achieve in a proper time, is thoughts are neither good nor bad. They are merely true for you at the time you're having them. Feelings are neither good nor bad. They're merely true for you at the time that you're having them. So don't beat yourself up over them. Be gentle with yourself. Give those thoughts, give those feelings a beginning, a middle, and an end. Let them have their own journey. The trouble starts when we fixate on them and focus on them, and then they just sit there like a dog gnarling on a bone and really give us some anxiety and some stress. And even myself, and I know, folks, if you're watching this, you may see two crazy people sitting here talking with wonderfully crazy hair that I haven't cut in a couple of weeks because I've been too busy to go to the barber. And it may seem like we get a little preachy every once in a while. And that's not the case. I don't want to come across as preachy and know-it-all, because believe me, these are lessons that I am still learning, and these are lessons that I stumble and fall over every other day that I have to keep reminding myself on. And if you're at this point in your journey, don't worry, just believe in yourself and hold that intention that you're going to make it and that you can be non-judgmental. Because being judgmental, we talked about a whole thing about what being non-judgmental gives us. But let's talk a little bit about what it is taken away, and then we'll talk about the practical applications. For me, being in a loving relationship with myself and being gentle and compassionate with myself and non-judgmental on myself has really lifted a weight from me. It has taken away my stress. It has taken away my anxiety. 3-4 years ago, I was diagnosed with moderate anxiety and severe depression, and in a 4-month period tried to commit suicide 4 times. Okay? I went into therapy and I started with medication to help me with that. And over the years and learning this concept of what I will define as mindfulness, because it really encompasses the whole thing, I am no longer in therapy and I no longer take the medication. So what this non-judgmental state of mind has given me is really my life back. It has taken away the stress. It has taken away the judgment. And not only the judgment for myself, but the judgment to have to impress people. You know, I was always the person who was the smartest kid in the room. For better or for worse, that's what I envisioned myself as. So I could never have a wrong answer because I didn't want to look like a fool in front of somebody else. And that took so much learning away from me, so much wisdom away from me, because I was scared to say, hey, you know, I don't know. Could you please show me? Could you please teach me? Hold on a second. I didn't understand that. Could you explain it differently, please? So what it has taken away was education, wisdom, stress. It's a wonderful thing when you reach there. And now we're in the second half of the show, so we're going to start talking about the practical applications on how you can really set this in a day in, day out way. So we take it out of the metaphysical realm and the New Age realm and the woo-woo realm, and we really give you some tools and strategies that you can use every day to do this. Now, I love this because this is what I built my business around, taking the metaphysical concepts, the woo-woo concepts, and really breaking it down into simple strategies you can use every day. We touched upon some earlier in the program. Katie was talking about writing letters. I was talking about gratitude lists. That's a wonderful way that you can do that. Keep a journal. Keep several journals. You may want to have one success journal. You may want to have one gratitude journal. You may want to have one shadow self journal where you put all your ugly thoughts or your black thoughts. It's okay. Whatever works for you, you could do that. You could write a letter to yourself. I remember that was an excellent exercise that I first learned about in 9th grade English. Excuse me, it was 12th grade English. Well, the first day of class, my teacher made everyone in the class write a letter to themselves. You know, and over the first couple of minutes of the class, the letter was very funny. Hey, how you doing? You need a haircut, blah, 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 blah. And then about 25 minutes into the class, all this stuff that an 18-year-old me was dealing with and all these questions started to come very naturally in these letters. So writing letters to yourself is a wonderful way of doing it. And Katie, that's a great idea. Start a blog if you want to. These are great, great ways. Now, another great way, besides writing either a gratitude list or a blog or a letter, I would highly recommend is meditation. Now, meditation doesn't mean that you have to sit there and go, over and over and over again. You can do anything you want that will relax you and put you in a meditative state. If that means just sitting and staring at a wall that's in front of you, you can do it. The simplest meditation that I teach all my clients is called a candle meditation. And all you do is you stick a candle about 9-12 inches in front of you, and you light the candle, and you focus on the light. You focus on the candle wick and nothing else. You breathe in, you breathe out deeply, and you focus on the candle, and you will be amazed because your world will go like this. And you will be able to focus on what's really going on and be in touch with yourself, and that will center you and that will slow you down. That's a great way of doing it. Yoga, or any exercise really, is a wonderful way of getting in touch with yourself and getting to that self-love, non-judgmental ways. These are wonderful ways. In the case of yoga and working out, will also help you look good in that bikini. Because trust me, I need to look good in my bikini when the summer rolls around. It's a goal of mine. But Katie, outside of writing and the yoga and the meditation, what do you think works for you? What other tools could you suggest to anyone watching right now?
Well, there's quite a few. So one is, as you said, meditation, breathing. Very important. Just breathing, just very deep breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth, you know, from that sort of diaphragm, nice and slowly, you know, and just for a couple of minutes each day, really, or whenever it feels, you know, if you're feeling a little bit anxious or whatever, some feelings arise to the surface, then just do that. And for me, that's sort of that helped me bring me back into the rhythm of life, back into the now moment. And allowed everything to sort of just release and let go. And so that was one thing. Also was to, in the process, is to really strengthen my conviction I have for myself and my love for myself. is trusting that I know what's best for me. And in that process is listening to my very first, I suppose, thoughts, or what my intuition was saying, or some people say spirit guides will say, whatever tools you have, that basically another word for your higher self, whatever. So let's just say intuition, because everybody understands, your feelings. So trust on your feelings. That's what I did. I always do. I do. That's what I do. I trust my feelings. My feelings. I'm connected to Mother Earth, Father Sky. We're all interconnected and so forth. And I know that sort of by following my feelings, the I that is me is putting me in a safe place. But it's about, okay, for me, not being influenced by what other people say. I listen to other people because everyone's my mirror. So therefore they have a message for me in some respect, and I can take it or leave it. But it's knowing that I can actually leave it. It's okay to not take someone's advice. They're just giving their advice on the knowledge they have. So it's knowing that I have a choice. I can choose to take it on board or choose not to take it on board. Okay, and either way, that's okay. So I can make up my own mind, basically. And it's about that's the one thing I really love. Sort of like that. That's the one thing that's really helped me, trusting in what I felt was right for me.
Now, you're saying to trust in yourself, and I agree with you 100%. But what advice would you give to someone who has never really listened to their heart or listened to their soul, or that gut feeling that we all have, that intuition, that psychic ability, that sixth sense? And they're saying, well, that really is good. I'd love to listen to myself, but how do I do that? It takes me 20 minutes to order lunch. How do I do? Could you give a couple of tips and strategies to someone so they can, little by little, build that muscle? Because that's really what you're doing. That muscle of listening to your intuition has to be worked, just like you go to the gym and you work out your biceps or your shoulders. You have to work out that intuition muscle and to listen to it. So what advice would you give to someone who is just starting out and is maybe afraid of listening to their intuition and taking that big step?
It's I suppose the first feeling, I suppose the first feeling is the truest, or the first thought is the truest. Does that make sense? Not thought. Sorry, not thought. Sorry, scrap that. Sorry. I suppose I'm finding this a little bit difficult to answer, actually, Gary.
And that's really, and thank you for that, because that was really the point I wanted to bring up, because a lot of people who are listening to this right now are probably saying, that's really great, but how do I do this? Give me the practical aspect of listening to my intuition. So what I would tell these people, because it's wonderful to go there, is to that gut feeling listen, and you don't have to make that major decision of, okay, I've got the gut feeling, I'm going to run away from my wife, or I'm going to quit my job and go join the circus. No, okay? We're not telling you to do that on the first step out. But if you want to develop that muscle of your intuition that will lead you to a non-judgmental state, then listen to that instinct, and maybe if it says go out for ice cream or go out to do this, make the small decision, whether it's, well, I know I should have a salad, but I want a steak, or vice versa. Just making the small decision and building that trust up every single day is going to help you increase that muscle for you. Another wonderful way and tool that you can get to, that you can use in addition to the meditation, in addition to the yoga, in addition to just the writing, is affirmations. And affirmations in this case will work the same way as my gratitude list does. You can write these affirmations down and speak them out loud, because there is a power, if you will, that happens when you're speaking and you actually hear what's going on. And all you're doing when you're saying affirmations and you're saying, you know, every day and every way I'm getting better or whatever the affirmation is going to be, is you're programming yourself. It's a behavioral meditation trick, because you're programming yourself to listen to that positive statement and you're reinforcing that. And that's a wonderful way to create a non-judgmental way. Hypnosis is also a great way of getting a reprogramming yourself. And I know a lot of people are scared of the word programming or reprogramming, because people think that they're going to be made to do all sort of weird things and cluck like a chicken, or maybe do a ritualistic killing or something. And here's the simple fact, is that someone is going to be programming you, folks. Okay? If you're watching the internet, if you're on YouTube, if you're watching television and you're seeing commercials, someone is programming you. Someone is telling you how to think and what to buy and what to wear and what's cool and what isn't cool. If this is the case, then I want to be the one who's going to program me and myself. And that's all I'm saying for you to do, is to increase that muscle using the tools of hypnosis, using the tools of a gratification list, of a affirmation list, because then you're programming yourself and you are choosing what to put in your mind and your heart. And that's going to go a long way to creating a non-judgmental you. Now, there are wonderful resources out there for you. If you go Google and Google meditation or affirmations or hypnosis, you'll find tons of free resources, especially YouTube. YouTube is a great place to go for free resources. You go to YouTube and you search affirmations, and boom, a whole bunch will pop up. So go there. And also, I'm going to do a little bit of selfless promotion here. If you go to my website at garypark.info, you're also going to find a lot of hypnosis recordings you can buy, and a lot of books that will help you develop your own affirmations and your own strategies and tips to put you in the right direction. Now, Katie, does that make sense to you? Do you have any other tips that you can give to people?
Well, actually, yes. Whilst we were talking about intuition there, that's very much, you know, obviously following our intuition, which is our inner guide. But, of course, we have an outer guide as well, which is known to many as God, universe, you know, anything that's on our outer reality. Now, you know, our outer is our actual inner, yeah. But anyway, for the concept of this, for this conversation, the outer is the outer, okay? Does that make sense? Yeah.
I understand exactly what you're saying, and that's a different show.
Yeah. But so let's just say we have an inner self and an outer self. So the outer self's out there. That's the separation. So, but how the universe sort of worked for me was on a daily basis. If, for example, when I wasn't aware that I was actually creating it, so I thought it was happening to me, okay, the universe would bring forward these like signs to me, and I would see something, and I, you know, straight say, oh, that's a coincidence. Okay, so that was the first thing I used to say. Oh, what a coincidence that happened. And you know, when I'd see 2 or 3, 4 things happen, the same thing happen, you know, just come at me within a couple of days, I would see that as a sign that I was either meant to go there or not meant to go there. It was sort of giving me a choice. And I suppose the 10 years up to when I sort of stepped into being aware of who I am, when I stepped into knowing the outer was the inner, it's the best way to put it. I was receiving outer signs as well as the inner. I mean, I was getting so many every day, and I think the lead up accelerated, and I was seeing about 5 or 6 like signs, things would happen. I think of somebody, literally 2 minutes later they walk round the corner. I'd not seen them for 10 years. You know, loads of things like that. Letters would.
These are things everyone can use to develop their intuition. And developing your intuition is a wonderful step first in getting this unconditional love, this non-judgmental way. And
Yeah.
I think another thing that you can do to just get the non-judgment for you and be gentle to yourself is every time that you sit there and listen to the words you use to describe yourself. Because I do this all the time. I'll sit there and I'll be making, like yesterday, I was making some marinade for a chicken or whatever I was having for dinner. And the marinade spilt on the floor. And my first response to that was, ah, shit. I am such an idiot. Such a goddamn asshole. Okay? And then I stopped and I went, well, wait a second. What did I just say to myself? So you have to be very cognizant of the language you're using to talk to yourself about, because those words have to be gentle. Even if it's sent in a heat of anger or a fit of frustration, or even if self-deprecating humor, try to use nothing but positive words and be conscious, constantly conscious of the words you're using. And if you find yourself going, oh my Lord, I'm an idiot, you know, like, you look around looking for your glasses and they're sitting on the top of your head. And you're about to say, ha ha ha, boy, what an idiot I am. And then you put your glasses on. Stop. Listen to yourself. And then apologize if you find yourself in doing that. I know that may sound crazy, but sit there and go, no, wait. Okay, self, I'm sorry. I'm not an idiot. I'm just had a moment where I turned into an old person, or I had a moment that I forgot this. I'm not an idiot. I am and then whatever positive affirmation you want to say. I am a beautiful person. I am a smart person. I am an intelligent person. And that will start to reframe your thoughts. And that's really the key to getting the unconditional nature, the gentleness, and the non-judgmental behavior towards yourself, is reframing those thoughts. Reframing them so you're only thinking in positive ways. Now, this doesn't mean that you're never going to have a negative thought. We're human. We're not robots. The key is when you have the negative thought, don't sit there and go, oh, crap, I was supposed to be just positive thoughts today. Oh, no, this isn't going to work. No, just say, oh, I had a bad thought. Okay, and move on. You know, when you first start learning about meditation, one of the things they'll say is, when you start to meditate and they tell you not to think, it's like telling someone not to think of a pink elephant. The minute I tell you not to think of a pink elephant, the first thing pops into your head is going to be a pink elephant. So when you have those thoughts and they come to your mind, just acknowledge them. Don't judge them. Just go, oh, look, there's that thought. Okay, it's going, it's going, it's gone. And just let it go out of your head. These things, and I know it sounds a little esoteric and it sounds a little crazy, but believe me, it's based in good behavioral principles, will be able to start you reframing your thoughts. And when you reframe your thoughts, that's when you start to get that non-judgmental belief. And that's when you start to not only look at yourself in a non-judgmental way, but all of a sudden you start to forgive and look at others in a non-judgmental way. And when that starts happening, there ain't nothing in your life that's going to hurt you. And that's the key to this conversation, and that's the reason Katie and I are here, and we're a little unorthodox. We're not professionals in any way, shape, or form. We're just two friends who want to share our thoughts, and we thank everyone for viewing with us. Katie, we've got about 10 minutes left, so if you have one last clue, one last tip or strategy that you can share with these people on how they can learn to be non-judgmental and gentle with themselves, what would you say it is?
Well, actually, there was something else I was hoping we'd have more time to talk about, but it didn't happen. And it's about unconditional love with each other. And I think it's very important. Well, you know, it is, for me, it's very important. It may not be to anybody else. But it's accepting someone for who they are, who they truly are. Let's just say, for example, this person's angry or upset or something. And they're sort of it seems like they're taking it out on, say, me, for example. But it's giving that person another way to practice unconditional love, is to practice in the presence of another person and just accepting that person 100% for who they are, understanding, having that compassion, listening to that person. So like you're listening to them. You don't want to like work out what's wrong with them, because there's nothing wrong with anyone. Everyone's perfect, right? It's accepting that that person is just having an offloading session. They need to get it out, and it's allowing that person to offload whatever they need to get out, so that they therefore can, because you know each person heals themselves in that process. And it's again, it's not about taking it personal, you know, just it's almost like separate but still be there. One of the things in my experience, what people tend to do is if they can't fight it, they fly. So fight or flight. Somebody comes at them, and they're angry or frustrated or whatever. If they feel that they can't fight that person or attack them or whatever, they'll run a mile. And I know that through a lot of friendships, Gary. Not people that have been necessarily aggressive at me, you know, because they for some reason they felt they couldn't talk to me. They've gone. Without giving me any sort of explanation or anything. I've lost a lot of friends in my life, just because I am very direct and I tell it like it is. But a lot of people just find that they can't talk to me for some reason. They can't share things with me, or that they feel that I may get offended by something, and I won't. I just can't be offended anymore. And so, you know, but what I'm saying, when people do actually talk to me, I can give people that unconditional love space to totally be 100% who they truly are, however they're truly feeling, because I know what's going on with them has nothing to do with me whatsoever. So I can take that out of the equation and just give that person love and that space for them to heal themselves.
And I just want to add to that. And if we run over, we run over. I mean, hey, it's okay, because we're in the moment here and we're not constrained by any parameters, which is good. Because you bring up a wonderful point that I know from my own experience in my own relationships. There's a person that I know that whenever we have a conversation that gets a little stressful and we start to miscommunicate, okay, she will allow me to go, and I'll just say, okay, fine. I'll talk to you later. Bye, cold. Okay? And hang up the phone. And she has this wonderful ability, and this goes away with what you just said, to not judge me personally because she loves me unconditionally, and to then give me that space that I need so it marinates in my own head or it processes through my own system. And then in about 20 minutes, she will call me back and very calmly start to explain what it was she was trying to say, and listen without judgment and without interruption to what I'm saying and the issues that I was having. And that's really the most powerful thing in practicing unconditional love to someone else. There's a old saying, I can't remember who said it, that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth so we could listen twice as long as we speak. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's really when you're sitting there with someone who's lashing out. They're not lashing out at you. Most of the time they're not lashing out on you. And they're really in a state where they need to be heard. They don't need a problem solved, and believe me, for guys, and I'm guilty of this myself, the one thing we want to do, especially if it's someone we care about, is, oh, I can solve that problem, and we jump into the fray. We're going to be Superman. That's not what's needed at that point. It took me a long time to learn that. Because all you need to do in that moment of loving unconditionally is be there and listen.
Yeah.
Listen with the intent to hear, not with the intent to respond or to solve the problem. And that's really the most important thing in trying to love someone unconditionally. And this issue will come up especially with loved ones and really good friends, because you don't want to see anyone you love in pain. And so you want to solve that pain. You want to take it away. But all you really need to do is sit there and listen. And just by listening, what you're really saying to that other person is, it's okay, I love you, I accept you, you're okay.
Yeah.
Now, a great tip to do this, and I had to do this myself, and believe me, I still do this, is I literally bite my tongue. You know the expression, bite your tongue, don't say anything. I started to bite my tongue quite literally to prevent myself from talking. That whenever I was having these sessions and these people were in an emotional state or they were in a crisis state and I wanted to dive in and save them, I literally bit my tongue, because that brought me to the point of, okay, that's right, don't say anything, just be there. Accept that they're going through it. Let them purge everything that's getting through them. That is really the best way, I think, that you can love unconditionally. And I love that you brought that up, Katie, because that's a perfect point. And I also think that when you start to be not judgmental on yourself, it's easier, not easy, but easier to do that. You're always going to have your sessions when you're going to talk to your loved ones, your parents, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, your wife, your kids, where you're going to want to just jump in without letting them download first. And downloading is part of the process. So you were absolutely correct on that, Katie. Unconditional love with someone else is important. And not only in that one-to-one when you're in loving situations with someone else, but also when you're seeing someone down the street and they're not dressed the way you would be dressed, you know, or they look differently from you, whether it's the way their hair is or the color of their skin, or maybe they're walking with their boyfriend or girlfriend and happens to be the same sex as them. Unconditional love is allowing them to live their life and understanding that it has no direct effect on you. Nor is your opinion going to change them. It's just letting them be and not saying it's right or wrong, just saying, oh, okay, that person is that way. Now, that's a little more difficult to do in a practical way, so how would you suggest people can do that?
Well, again, it's, what's that saying? Whatever's going on with someone else. No, is, I've forgotten it. Whatever's going on with someone else is not.
I know there's a quote.
Oh, what is it?
Somebody thinks of me as none of my business.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
But that's sort of a similar, I suppose, an opposite, I suppose. But it's like for example, you know, if I'm walking down the street and there's some strange, just say, I don't know, same-sex relationship, is sort of respecting and accepting. You know, I just have total acceptance, because it's a for me, that's giving the people the freedom to be themselves and to express themselves in however they choose for themselves. I mean, with relationships, personally, I believe that, you know, a relationship between two people, if we say a romantic relationship, for example, has, you know, it's up to them how they choose to be in relationship with each other. It's got absolutely nothing to do with me whatsoever. You know, as long as they're happy, it's two mutual consenting adults. Do you know what I mean? That's got nothing to do with me. So
yes,
I don't judge it, or, you know, I've got no judgment about anybody else, about how anybody else lives their life. I mean, it's got nothing to do with me.
And that's absolutely right. I often say that the world would be a better place if we would let go of the need to be right. Because that's really the biggest issue here when we're talking about self-love, unconditional love for ourselves and unconditional love for someone else. I live in the United States. Katie, of course, you're in Bristol, not Connecticut, England, UK. And in the States, anybody knows here that the political climate is horrible. That there is no trust, there is no respect, because both sides are not going to give an inch. They believe that they are right, and damn it, they're going to prove the other side to be wrong. And when you're talking about unconditional love with someone else, you have to let go of the need to be right.
Yeah.
You always have to remember that mine is not the only way, mine is just another way.
That's right.
That what's right for me is not necessarily the universal right. And that's a core belief that I have developed that's helped me a lot. And if the people who are listening, and folks, if you want to take it and try to install it as one of your core beliefs, that there is no right, there is just right for me.
Yeah, it's just what serves, isn't it? I mean,
Exactly. It's what serves my highest purpose, is another way of saying it.
yeah,
And that will go a long way in allowing you to love unconditionally with someone else, whether it's your lover, whether it's your parent, or whether it's the guy walking down the street, because all of a sudden you don't have to be right. You could just let him be. Now, you don't have to agree with the way he lives, but you have to let him be that way, because there is no one right way.
yeah, exactly.
And that's another main thing.
Yeah.
And I really wish I had a quick tip or strategy to tell you folks that could help you reach that point. The truth of it is, if it's out there, I haven't figured it out yet. And if you got one while you're listening, please email it to me, email it to Katie, drop it in the comments, write it in the chat room, because I'd love to figure out how to do this and make it as simple as possible for people to let go of the need to be right.
Well, it's letting go of competition, thinking everybody's right, and this, you know, all competing against each other with what they think is right. I mean, just accept, you know, you're all right and you're all wrong.
I think that comes from, I think it was Wayne Dyer who said, every situation, every moment in time is a place where we could choose love or choose fear. Always choose love. And when you're saying I'm right and you're wrong to someone, what you're doing is choosing fear. And again, I know I just realized I'm sounding preachy as hell, and I don't want to do that. So we talked a little bit about unconditional love with someone else. Katie, do you want to add anything to that?
We have talked quite a lot about it. Now, just going quickly back to that, it's just about accepting what is for us. Like for me, you know, for me, it's like, if it feels right for me to do something, I'll do it. If it doesn't feel right, or if it's serving, you know, if that's going to serve me and make me feel better or feel gentle about, whatever. If I feel something is good for me, I'll go for it. If I don't feel something is going to be good for me, you know, make me feel I'm going backwards or something, I'll probably ignore it and just focus on. So I suppose the only thing I'd sort of like to say is just follow your heart.
And that's,
but don't necessarily think your path is going to be the same as the person next to you.
That's exactly right. The best question you could ask yourself in any situation is, will this serve my highest good? Is this moving me closer to the person I want to be or further away from the person I want to be? Yeah. And if you answer that question and ask it every time and answer it, that'll go a long way to encouraging gentleness and a non-judgmental behavior and unconditional love towards yourself and to someone else. I know that seems a little oxymoron-ish because you're asking yourself, is something right for me? But ultimately, when you listen to yourself and you listen to that gut that Katie referred to as earlier and you listen to that intuition, it becomes easier and easier and easier. Now, folks, we want to thank you for tuning in to, what is this, the 5th episode we've had?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
Yes.
The 5th episode, and if you've missed any of the previous, the other 4 are sitting on the YouTube page that we will put on the Group of One on Facebook site and the Group of One meetup site. If you want to learn a little bit more about the Group of One, you could visit us on Facebook, visit us on our meetup site, sign up for our newsletter so you'll never miss another one of these episodes again. I know they also have wonderful live events in England that they do every so often, so maybe you're lucky and you can meet the beautiful Katie West live in person. And if you want to learn more about me, drop by my Facebook page. It's permission granted. Or just Gary Karp, that's my personal page. Or check out my website, garykarp.info, and sign up for my newsletter. We do thank you for being here with us today. Katie, do you have anything, final words on the subject? Or, hey, I'll open the floor to you, so I'll just batten down the hatches and get ready for what you're about to say.
Yeah, all I'm going to say is, like, all those links that you just mentioned, I'm going to put on the YouTube when I put this out. Obviously, it's going to on the YouTube description. So if anybody wants to, what we have been doing, we haven't sort of mentioned, if anybody's interested, got something that they want to talk about, something to do with practical ways on living, unconditional love, oneness. We want to talk about oneness, whether from a science or spirituality perspective, or about peace, inner peace, or world peace. No matter what the conversation is, if somebody wants to join us, because we've got a good few weeks of this, we've got till August the 11th, once a fortnight, we're opening up the platform, and we can get a maximum.
People in the United States don't know what a fortnight is unless they studied Shakespeare. How long is that?
2 weeks, once every 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Okay, on a Tuesday. Next week we have coming up, which we're inviting people to join in with, is a conversation on Ascension symptoms, or what is happening to me. So if you're going through any sort of, quite a few people go through a lot of physical sensations or having headaches or whatever, and they go to the doctor, and the doctor can't, they're coming back without a diagnosis. They don't understand sort of what's happening. So if anything's going through any of these sort of shifts, or full moon and the intensity and anything like that, anyway, that's what we're going to be talking about next week. Sorry, 2 weeks' time. And then in 2 weeks after that, 2 weeks, I didn't mention 2 weeks, after that we have Harold Becker and John Volts from President and Founder of the Love Foundation. They're going to be joining us on the show to talk about Global Love Day. So we've got quite a couple of things coming up, which is quite good fun. But as I said, it would be lovely if we had a few more people join us, get a few more different perspectives, mix up the soup.
So, folks, you heard Katie. If you have an idea for a show, or you have an opinion on anything we said, whether you agree with us or you think we're full of poppycock, just let us know. And maybe you can come on with us and we could have a three-way discussion, or many other people. This is great for Katie and I, but we sure would love for other people to join us on air and join us with these conversations. I want to send a special shout out to Harold Becker, who Katie did mention. We'll be having him on in about a month. He is the founder or creator of the Love Foundation and World Love Day, and Group of One and Harold work very closely together. So I just wanted to give a shout out to him and the Love Foundation. Right now, folks, again, thanks for showing up. Thanks for listening to us. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube. Flip by my website. And just have a great rest of your week. And remember, be gentle with yourself.
Yes.
Thank you very much for showing up, folks. Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.